Given that the border is secure, might you rethink that spending? They're important. I'm not going to argue with that.
The Arctic is
I'm
incredibly
arguing with
important, and
using our military to take it by force in accordance with the president's wishes.
I heard what you said about those two countries and saying we need to worry about China. Well, we are worried about China. We are in the planning business.
Speaking on behalf of the American people, I don't think the American people voted for President Trump because they were hoping we would invade Greenland. I'm going to go out on a limb on that one. I yield back.
In Washington, budget fights are nothing new, but a recent congressional hearing took things to another level. What started as a debate over government spending quickly turned into a heated argument about border security, military reform, and even plans to invade Greenland and Panama. Yes, you heard that right.
Recognize the ranking member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on the budget point, I made this point before the committee before. The House just passed a budget that adds nearly $3 trillion to an already out-of-control debt. So if we do really want to spend money on defense or anywhere else, we got to be willing to pay for it. And I this, certainly go back through generations of, bipartisan problems with this. You can't have a debt that size and keep coming back talking about how much money you're going to spend, whether it's defense or whatever your priorities are. And Mr. Secretary, you said the 99% down on border crossings and the border is secure. At the same time, we're going to take $1 billion out of the MILCON budget, out of building barracks, to send it for the border. And there's another 4,000 troops that we're planning on sending down to the border. Given that the border is secure, might you rethink that spending?
Well, sir, we are securing it. It is secure, but it's a manpower-intensive effort at the beginning.
Two different words there. It's either secure or secure. And it sounded to me like you said it was secure.
It is secure.
Okay.
What we're continuing to do is expand that and fortify it through infrastructure, which is a big part of the budget on the Department of Homeland Security side as well. So it's that $1 billion you're talking about was from the CR in FY25. We fully fund that back and more in FY26 with a recognition that we were dealing with the world as it existed when we came in. And the previous administration said they needed new legislation to secure the border. It turns out you just needed a new president.
I would point out
president with the Defense Department and DHS that was willing to go to the border and actually secure it, which is what
not submitted a budget yet. So whether or not you're putting that money back in remains to be seen. You have definitely taken it out. And I think the obsession there, and I don't disagree, the border needed to be secure. But from a pure budget standpoint, let's just not keep the political focus on that. Let's make sure that we're funding some of the other priorities that we have. So when it comes back to acquisition reform and the chairman's point, it's our committee, certainly Congress is part of the problem. We set up a lot of requirements. Defense contractors are part of the problem. I'm curious, how would you get after reforming the culture at the Pentagon so that you can move faster, number one, and number two, how would you get after the defense contractors that push the requirements process? And specifically, what would you do about the requirements process to try to speed things up?
Well, first of all, I think gold plating is a real problem. Sir, I mean, across the department.
Interesting to use the word gold in this particular context, but yes, I agree with you, actually.
We maybe could use a little bit more silver plating on occasion. A recognition that the 99% solution is oftentimes the enemy of the 85% solution that delivers 2 years sooner. And that's contractors and other companies wanting to do right, but trying to do too much and overpromise, and then they're under-delivering, and the warfighter
not always wanting to do right. In some cases, just
not always,
just wanting to make money. So, but yes,
the change is also in acquisitions about people. You need reformers in these positions. I'm here to be a disruptor of those processes. Our deputy secretary has extensive business experience. The types of people we're bringing in as undersecretaries have been disruptors and innovators in the private sector who recognize that bureaucracy can be dysfunctional and needs to be disrupted. So it's taking outside the box unique approaches. I mean, virtual design is a big example. How many times are we going to build something physically that takes a year to build when you could use AI and computing power, design it virtually, identify the flaws, and move more quickly, or create open architecture so you can.
Our committee stands ready to work with you.
I mean, there's 500 different things we can do, and we're doing them.
Yeah, and I'm sincerely concerned about this. Is it the policy of the Department of Defense that we need to be prepared to take Greenland and Panama by force if necessary? Is this a policy that you have within the Department of Defense?
At the center of this discussion is a growing concern: America's national debt. Lawmakers pointed out that the latest federal budget adds almost $3 trillion to a debt that's already spiraling out of control. The message was simple: if we're going to spend more on defense or anything else, we've got to figure out how to pay for it. Then the conversation shifted to the border. The Pentagon is taking $1 billion away from military construction to help fund border operations. But if the border is secure, as officials claim, why the extra spending and troops? That contradiction raised eyebrows. But the most unexpected moment came with this sharp question: does the Pentagon have plans to invade Greenland or Panama? The question wasn't random. It's about China's growing influence in those regions, especially with control of key infrastructure like the Panama Canal and resource-rich areas of the Arctic. The Pentagon's answer: we plan for everything, but that doesn't mean we intend to do it. This moment exposed a bigger issue. What should America's priorities be? Are we spending wisely? Are we focused on the right threats? And how do we balance security with responsibility? Let's break down exactly what happened and why it matters.
In accordance with the president's wishes.
I heard what you said about those two countries and saying we need to worry about China. Well, we are worried about China.
That wasn't my concern.
China's malign influence in Panama.
I was
And the recognition
concerned with
that
us
if China has
saying
control of
that
the
using
ports
military
or
force
malign
to take
influence
another
over the
sovereign
Panama,
country's
we
territory.
should pay attention to that.
Right.
So Panama is very key terrain that we've focused on, and we've been willing to focus
So we
on,
should
as
take it.
is Greenland
We should
key
take
terrain.
it by military force. They're important. I'm not going to
Arctic-
argue with
the
that.
Arctic is
I'm
incredibly
arguing with
important, and
using
adversaries are
our
trying to
military
gain-
to take it by force.
Our job at the DoD is to have plans. And
Do you have a plan for that?
Our job at the Defense Department is to have plans for any particular contingency.
Including the contingency of basically
Any
invading
contingency you need, we've got it. We've got a building full of planners, and we're prepared to give recommendations whenever needed.
So just be clear, you have plans to take Panama and Greenland by force if necessary.
I think the American people would want the Pentagon to have plans for any particular contingency.
Not
and
for that
thankfully,
one,
we
in
are
my
in the
opinion.
planning business.
Speaking on behalf of the American people, I don't think the American people voted for President Trump because they were hoping we would invade Greenland. I'm going to go out on a limb on that one. I yield back.